I'm your host, Dennis Horvitz, the David Letterman of the Hopelessly Damned. If you have watched the last couple of shows, you have seen a presentation given by Dr. Darrell W. Ray, who is the author of this book, if you can get that, The God Virus, How Religion Infects Our Lives and Culture. And we had really one of the best shows, best series of shows we've had in a long time. Very lively discussion, and I just want to congratulate him for surviving a question and answer period with New York City Atheists. If we have time, we're going to actually discuss some of the things that we didn't cover in the presentation at the meeting the other day. But today's kind of a special presentation, a special show, because Dr. Ray is involved in an organization to help people recover from religion, which, by the way, welcome again. Thank you again for donating your time. Dr. Ray is from Wichita, Kansas. He's came all the way from Kansas to kind of help us out here and discuss his book and these other issues with us. But why don't you just start off by telling us what your what the organization is, and how it was founded, why you felt the need to found it, and.
Okay. Well, after I'd published the book, I was speaking around the country, and it seemed like every time I would make a presentation, somebody would come up to me and say, "I've been out of religion, but it was for some time, but I really had trouble doing it, and I didn't know who to find, I didn't know who to connect with, and I felt lost because I used to go to church every Sunday and Wednesday night and that sort of stuff, and I had a social group. I had people that cared about me supposedly, so." That discussion led to me and some other folks talking and saying, well, how can we help these people find something that would substitute, if you will, for that, and give people a path by which they could get out of religion and not feel like they have to actually go back to Sunday school or go back to church in order to get their needs met, and believe some pretty crazy things in order to get their social needs met. And that's why that's what it started evolving from at that a few months back. And when we started talking about it, a few of us started talking. I said, well, what about AA? AA is a recovery group, and what these people are really talking about is they're recovering from religion.
From a type of religion.
That's perfect. That's great. So let's call it recovering from religion, and let's kind of understand what that means and how many steps does it take and all that. Of course, we can take the God steps out real quick, can't we?
Right.
So ours only has 10 steps, if you will, and they're not really steps. They're more or less principles that we like to follow and think about. So that evolved into, well, let's start a group here in Kansas City, where I live right now, and test it, and lo and behold, it went just really well. We announced it. We thought we had like 3 or 4, maybe 5 people we thought would show up. 11 people showed up. In fact, we had too many people. It was a little bit too big a group to do what we wanted to do, but it just went very
amazing.
well.
Let me just say this, that I've noticed, and I wouldn't have dared to hope this 10 years ago, but I noticed that there seems to be the beginning of kind of just a backlash in Bible Belt states. That I know that I never miss a chance to say hello to our friends, the atheists in Alabama. The Alabama
Huntsville group,
the Huntsville, Alabama group affiliated American Atheists. I tell them they're my favorite atheists.
Yes, they are.
They've done some tremendous work, and Blair Scott, a good friend of ours. But I think as we discussed at your presentation, there are other groups, in Georgia, I believe, and North and South Carolina.
Right. We've got groups starting actively. It's just like almost every day somebody emails me and says, how do I start a group in our area?
People are fed up.
Yeah, I think they are. We have 3 groups now in Arkansas, of all places, that just spontaneously came up. I didn't even know we had folks that were that interested there. We had one person that was very interested, but then all of a sudden we have 3 groups, which is phenomenal. And we have groups, of course, in Kansas. We have 3 groups now in Kansas City. We had 1 to start with, now we got 3, and they just spontaneously are coming out.
That is amazing, and especially in Kansas, where there's been so much controversy about teaching creation. They still basically haven't completely resolved that issue, have they?
It goes back and forth. Every time there's an election, if off your elections, the Republicans and fundamentalists can get in there and get their people elected, so then we go backwards. On your elections, we have enough people voting. Fortunately, all but I think 2 of those nuts are out.
Right, and it's interesting that I think one of the people who was actually supporting teaching evolution was in fact a liberal or a moderate Republican.
Yes, yes, she was.
Yeah.
Well, you're either a very conservative Democrat, a moderate Republican, or a fundamentalist.
Yeah, yeah.
In Kansas, there aren't very many progressives in that state.
Not too many liberals.
The irony of it was that at one point in time, Kansas was the leader in progressivism. The leader.
That's
back
right.
In the 1890s.
Right, and would that have to do more with labor and farm and
Well, there was a number of issues surrounding it, but
right.
I mean, we're not here to give history lessons, I don't think.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of ironic, though.
Yeah, well, we look at how liberal Massachusetts is, and yet Massachusetts was actually the last of the states to disestablish their church.
Yes, right, yeah.
And the state of Rhode Island was founded because of the religious repression in Massachusetts.
Exactly.
So it just kind of comes full
By a
circle in a
Baptist,
way.
no less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another irony, the Pledge of Allegiance, as it was originally written, did not include the phrase "under God,"
Right.
and it was written by a preacher.
Oh.
I believe that I forgot the man's name, but he deliberately made no mention of God in it. So, recovering from religion. So, why don't you? I'm going to have a couple more questions in regard to this, but why don't you just? What would be the 10 steps as opposed to, or the 10?
Well, I don't have them memorized.
Well,
frankly,
just you know.
Well, first of all, we need to admit that there is no higher power. We're not here. We're not going to depend on invisible friends to help us get out of religion. And we're not trying to get out of religion to get into a new religion.
Right.
We're very clear in recovering religionists that this is not a new religion. We're trying to get you out of any religion.
So you're not trading your old superstition for a new one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're superstition free.
Right.
We talk about being faith free and superstition free. And we tell people, leave your crystals at home. Don't ask us what our sign is when you come to our meetings.
Right.
Because we don't want any kind of superstition. We're not just against Christian superstition.
Of course, right.
Any kind.
Right.
New Age superstition is just
Right.
as much superstition.
No fairies, leprechauns,
No fairies.
gods,
Well, the
demons.
Irish can have their leprechauns.
The Irish can have their leprechauns, right? Yeah, makes sense.
As long as they don't bring them to our meetings.
That's right. Don't bring leave your leprechauns at home.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's a good policy. So let me ask you this, and I'd probably be in a position just even as a psychologist, when I was making my own journey, to formally becoming an atheist, because I had actually kind of been an atheist for a long time.
Right.
But I've read certain accounts of that people who realized that they were atheists
Right.
and made that break would still have these intense feelings of guilt.
Right, yes. Right.
And I guess it had a lot to do with family pressure,
Right.
and maybe even in a sense that emotionally not dissimilar to losing a limb and still feeling pain in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Have you found that yourself? Do you
Oh,
find
absolutely.
people-
I can tell you this morning I felt it.
Right.
Literally, this morning.
Right.
I've been out for many, many years, and
Yeah.
my family knows I'm out. I mean, obviously, I'm
Sure.
writing books about it. I got an email from my daughter just last night that my grandson, she's a fundamentalist, and she's taken my grandson to get baptized.
Oh, boy.
At the age of 6 years old. She thinks this child is okay and ready to make that kind of decision. That's her decision. That's the family's. I have nothing to say about it, of course. But the pain was there. I mean, I'm thinking, darn, I really wish this kid could make his own decision, because I don't think any
Right.
6-year-old's got the mental capacity to make huge decisions in their life.
Right. And what about feeling just general alienation from the family?
Well, I do.
itself?
I mean, I want to support my grandchild. I want to support my daughter.
You want to, right.
But this is not something I want to support them in. So.
And
what
those
do I
are
do?
generally held to be very important rites of passage and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And the tendency is to want to participate in a
Sure.
family member's.
Sure. Right. So it's difficult. But you were really asking about a broader range of people, and I see that a lot. People are still years after getting out of atheism
Sure.
because they've still got a dear sister that they love, but the whole religion thing seems to keep you at distance. You can't share any longer.
Yes.
I have a good friend in Tulsa, Oklahoma. One of her best friends, they've been best friends for 17, 18 years, and when she became an atheist, it made it difficult for them to talk about, because they talked about religion all the time.
Yeah.
What she found out, and I think many atheists find out, is that when you do become non-theist, all you talked about was about your invisible friend and how he or she was investing and involving with you and answering your prayers and all this. Well, what do you talk about when you can't have it, when you don't have any invisible friends to talk about anymore?
Right, when that's your world.
Yeah, yeah. So she was disappointed talking about our children, but we're talking about, did our children go to Sunday school or not, what they learned in Sunday school. It just invades every space.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're just you're a creature from another world, both of you. You know.
Another thing I found out, especially from a lot of the fundamentalists, is they prayed every day.
Yeah.
And now that they are not, they have no invisible friends anymore, they find themselves thinking, oh, I should pray about that. And they say, well, why would I want to pray about that?
Right.
But it's still a reflex.
Well, it becomes a reflex. It becomes habituated. It takes a long time to shed that if you ever really completely do it. You know.
So I think there's leftovers, and it's conditioned, you know, from being. I mean, I was told you pray every night before you go to bed. I remember praying vigorously every night before I go to bed.
Well, I came myself. I came from an Orthodox Jewish background, and you know, there's prayers 3 times a day, and there's prayer over food, and there's and that kind of thing. And you know, I have family that a sister that's still observant and very, it's not a problem with us at all.
Right.
In fact, there was some kind of atheist program on television last year or something. She called me up to let me know, which is kind of interesting. That where we're very understanding of each other's position. There's just a point where you just got to draw the line. You can't really participate.
Right,
you know,
right.
You have to balance. Well, if they're going to have Passover or some other religious and cultural occasion,
right.
Should I go as a member of the family, or what do I do?
Yeah. Right. My grandfather died this last year at the ripe old age of 99 years and 1 month.
Wow.
And he loved, I'm a singer, and he wanted me to sing certain songs.
Yes, he definitely is. He's a singer. He sang Amazing Grace at the meeting last night. So I was washed in the blood of Jesus.
Well, you were last night.
I was washed in the blood.
But
you're a singer, right?
He died, and he specifically asked me if I'd sing at his funeral. I said sure. And so I'm here at this little country, funeral home in the middle of Missouri, singing his 2 favorite songs and playing the harmonica. I also play the harmonica. Mm-hmm. And several people came up to me afterwards and thanked me and said, they appreciated me singing there. And my son came up and said, doesn't it feel a little bit ironic to you, Dad, that you're an atheist singing all these Christian songs? And I said, absolutely not. It's for my grandfather.
Yeah,
it's his wish. I don't have any problems doing that.
There are certain things that are just judgment calls, and you have to do it based on.
I don't believe the words I'm singing. I don't have to do that. If I was singing other things, professionally, which you wouldn't necessarily have to believe the words you're singing to enjoy the music.
That's right. If you were singing a song, my wife ran off with my best friend, and I miss him.
Yeah, right. That's too true.
There actually is a song by that title.
I know there is.
How can I miss you when you won't go away? That's true, and I think it is a judgment. Well, Christopher, no less than a personage than Christopher Hitchens says that he just loves church music. And I've heard that a lot from atheists.
Well, Daniel Dennett says he goes to Episcopalian church because he likes the ritual.
He absolutely likes the music, and I think at the meeting we discussed. Someone mentioned the fact, well, if we're going to get rid of religion, what are we doing about about the positive things that it brings? And of course, the example was the art and the music.
Yes, right.
But I think if you get rid of religion, art and music will not go away.
Right, but look at the art. Not necessarily music, but the art we still appreciate from ancient religions. I mean, the Egyptians have enormously beautiful art from their religion. And we don't care. It's just beautiful.
It's just beautiful. That's right.
The Greeks, the same way, but we don't sit around worshiping Zeus anymore.
That's right. So no one's suggesting that we tear down the Sistine Chapel or anything like that. Absolutely not.
We can appreciate Hindu art and Buddhist art,
and we can appreciate for the emotions that went into them and for the emotions that they evoke.
They're human emotions.
They're human emotions, and in fact, again, if I can just plug the book, Darrell Ray, The God Virus. In your book, you specifically mentioned that this whole debate is not really about facts anyway; it's about emotions.
Yes,
and how to deal with it. So, the emotions definitely have their place.
if I could interject something.
Sure.
I wrote this on my blog a week or two ago, and it got quite a bit of response. I was surprised, and it has to do with the recovering religion issue.
We've got to get that website out too. So
I have found that there's really two kinds of atheists. I call them type 1 and type 2, if you will. Type 1 atheists are the atheists that were kind of born that way. They've always been, and they may have been raised in a religious or semi-religious environment, but they never felt it. It didn't take. If the virus never really got into them. Then there's the type 2, who years after they after they matured, they finally get out of religion. They have a whole set of emotional issues to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
That the type 1 don't have.
Yes.
And what I watch in meetings, when I go to meetings when there's other, both types of atheists sitting there, I see that type 1 atheist sitting there with puzzled, questioning looks on their face. How could you possibly feel that? It's no big deal.
Right.
And yet, for the type 2 atheists, it's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal.
So
yes.
we in the atheist community need to really understand that there's two types. There's the people who have always been that way, and there's the people who are coming out later in life and having to deal with all these emotional issues of connection, lack of connection, family connection, emotions.
And now, before we can go any further, your website is recoveringReligionists.com.
Right, plural.
And is that the blog as well?
No, my blog's on atheistnexus.org.
Atheist Nexus?
atheistnexus.org.
atheistnexus.org.
Right.
Okay, and you can go to that blog. Go to either one.
Yeah.
Going back to what I started talking about in the beginning, and we mentioned that people who wind up becoming atheists, still have these feelings of guilt. But I've also encountered situations where a sense of anger too, that they've been lied to.
Yes, right.
And of course, they've been lied to by people who have been lied to. And
Right. Generation after generation.
Almost infinite regression,
Yes, right.
Not to mention infantile regression.
Yeah.
That's just my little snide remark. But people who tend to just really, it's like once the blinders have been taken off, it's kind of like, whoa, people, how could I have possibly swallowed that stuff,
Right, yeah.
But there is a sense of, I found in some cases there is a sense of resentment. I noticed that at American atheist conventions and at these kind of conventions, American Atheist Alliance International conventions, of course there are always, as you did, you had a booth with selling your book, but I've noticed there tends to occasionally be a proliferation of books by angry recovering believers. Not all of them are literary gems, but I don't know. Have you had to deal with a lot of anger? I would assume you had to deal with anger issues.
I don't think it's direct. It's always related to that. I think there's angry people. Period.
Right.
Whether they're atheist, Baptist, I don't care, Muslim.
Right.
And that's a whole other issue. I think people bring into their lives anger they don't need to do. Now, the sense of betrayal, that's a real issue. That the sense that parents used religion to control me in inappropriate ways, parents abused me with their religion.
Right.
Yeah, those are all issues, but those are really psycho and emotional issues to deal with. What I've seen, and I think you're referring to, is the anger that people bring against other religionists. There's anger against other Christians or anger against whoever is near us, and that's inappropriate. Really, it is. And I write in my book that we need to get over that, and we need to not project our anger onto other people. And I think all too often, Dennis, when we are discussing religion with other people, we put them on the defensive.
Right.
And when you put somebody, I give this quote in my workshops a lot. Defensive people don't listen.
That's right.
Defensive people can't learn because their ears slam shut.
Right.
So the minute we talk religion with somebody in an inappropriate way, putting them on the defensive, the discussion goes nowhere. We actually entrench things and we destroy the relationship.
Yeah, and it's actually it is kind of you really have to work on keeping the other person's humanity in perspective.
Precisely.
In perspective, because, and I've known this from personal experience, but the author Michelle Goldberg, in her book Thy Kingdom Coming, where she discusses this whole phenomenon of the religious right attempting to take over America, She said that some of them were the nicest people she'd ever met in her life.
They're wonderful.
And in fact, I was last year I was involved in a discussion with this Presbyterian pastor who does a lot of work with with teenagers and things like that, and even involved in getting people to vote and stuff. And he and I couldn't have been more diametrically opposed in our view of the universe and reality.
Yeah.
And yet he is one of the nicest people I met. Just a very charming, funny person. I liked him personally.
Remember, he was probably born to be a Presbyterian. His parents were probably Presbyterian.
Actually, I don't know what he was. He may have been born some vague. He was vaguely Christian, and then he kind of He was
Christian. He wasn't Muslim. Right. So people come into a religion and they feel defensive about the religion because that's the one they were born in.
Right.
Just like you feel defensive around your family.
Right.
Right or wrong, it's my family,
That's
and
right.
I don't like people criticizing my family.
That's right.
Well, you kind of extend that out to your religion because that is an extension of your family.
That's right.
Ways. The issue was you were born there. You didn't choose that religion. You were born into that religion.
Right.
Now, he may have been born a Baptist and became a Presbyterian, or vice versa, but he was Christian to begin with, and not Catholic Christian. He was Protestant Christian.
Right. He probably was not. I don't think he was Catholic.
Yeah. Almost that phenomenon of going from one to the other is fairly rare. It's very rare because people come through and feel the religion they were born in. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. If you've done any study on it. Do you think that there are more Catholics who become Protestants than the other way around?
I have no idea.
I have
no idea. But it's rare. I mean, how many times do you know it happens?
Right.
The times it happens is more often related to people getting married to somebody.
Yeah.
They don't just do it, well, I think I want to be Catholic. I was born a Baptist. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
What does happen is I fall in love with a Catholic woman or man, and then I marry that man. Of course, if you're gay and you fall in and you're a man, you're probably not going to marry the Catholic. At least not in the Catholic Church.
Or actually too many Protestants either.
Yeah, that's true.
For that matter. So, and maybe we just kind of we're hopping around here, but maybe if we can go back to you said as far as the 10 requirements for being involved with recovering from religion, we covered no belief in a higher power or superstition.
Well, another one is let's talk about who we've hurt in our religiosity in the past. AA talks about how people, through your alcoholism or whether you might have hurt people. Well, I think sometimes we can look back and say, through my zeal as a religionist and proselytizing, I may have alienated people. I may have hurt friends or relatives. So I think it is good to take a self-assessment and ask yourself, who might I have hurt when I was so deep into this religious stuff? Mm-hmm. And you're probably going to find a few people.
Yeah.
That you've hurt, or that in some way you've alienated friends that you've lost because you were so vociferous about your religious principles.
Right, and I keep reminding myself and also our viewers that this organization is primarily, for people who've had some kind of extremist religious background. Is that right? Or,
absolutely not. No, not really. Anybody who feels a need to get support in leaving their religion. We've met some Episcopalians. I mean, you can't get much more wishy-washy than some Episcopalian areas, churches, and they want the same support.
Well, the only reason I bring that up,
it's leaving superstition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. Well, I'm just thinking somebody who was, say, a casual participant in a religion who then became an atheist.
Right.
I'm just wondering whether that would be, who we've hurt would not necessarily be an issue for that person, would it?
It probably wouldn't,
Right.
if they were always casual. But what happened, if in their early 20s they'd become Jesus freaks?
Right, okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
I'm not here to make that
So,
judgment.
so let me make this clear. So to be in recovering from religion, you don't necessarily have to have come from an extremist background.
We don't care.
You just basically realize you're an atheist and want to know what to do next.
No, actually, we don't even care if you're an atheist or not.
Really?
No, well, you can be a deist. You can believe in a God. We don't care. It's religion.
That's
we're
right.
concerned
I'm sorry,
about.
that was my mistake. I think you mentioned that you right. You just want to. So it's basically literally recovering from religion and not so much recovering from belief in God.
Believe whatever you want. Believe in the flying spaghetti monster. We don't care.
Right.
I believe in the flying spaghetti.
I am a Rastafarian myself.
Pastafarian.
Pastafarian.
You're a pastafarian.
Pastafarian. That's right. Sorry. I actually have a copy of the flying spaghetti monster. The
Bible of the Flying Spaghetti Monster?
Yeah, the Pastafarian Bible at home. Okay. So it's very funny, very good reading. Right. So you for those who need to, they can self-assess.
Self-assess, right.
About who they
And
are.
our model is a lay model. We aren't looking for social workers or psychologists to lead these groups. We are looking for people who will volunteer, stand up to lead these groups. And we're putting the guidelines right on the website. We're giving people all the information they need to run a group.
Ah, good. That's going to
We're connecting people together. There's facilitators in other cities, and we'll give you their names, we'll give you their emails. We want people working together to make this work.
And so anybody that wants to, anybody who happens to go on the internet and see the show who's in Cincinnati can contact your organization.
All they have to do is go to the website.
Go to the website.
Yeah.
And
we'll connect them if we can to a local meeting if there's one there. If there's not, we'll see if they want to start one.
They want to start one. So again, that's recoveringReligionists, plural.com. And you can go there for all that information will be there for
everything. Lots of resources there. We're trying to develop lots of more resources.
In any case, and again, your blog is on
atheistnexus.org.
.org.
Yeah,
so
just Darrell Ray, atheistnexus.org.
Atheist Nexus.
And if they want to buy the book online, they can go to thegodvirus.net to get the book.
Okay. Well, or
Amazon.
Or Amazon. I actually, again, before we close off, I'm going to just hold this up. The God Virus.
And if they buy it from the website, I always autograph the books.
Yes, and actually I got mine from the website, and his came pre-autographed. In any case, amazingly, we've come to the end of another show. I want to thank you, Darrell Ray, the author of The God Virus, How Religion Affects Our Lives and Culture. We've been discussing his organization, Recovering from Religion, and again, just really quickly, recoveringreligionists.com, and you can go to that website and get that information. I have been your host, Dennis Horvitz. Please join us again next week.